Welcome to Eagle and Rue and the beginning of the Glove Project.
Good afternoon, lovelies. So my voice is going and I apologize, but this is the intro to the glove measuring video. I am using the Butterick pattern 5370. This is the glove pattern I've had forever. I don't even know where the envelope is anymore. I got this glove pattern a long time ago. I have no idea how many years ago. And probably when it first came out, because I was like, oh, gloves. And I have made, as you can see from the video, I have made fingerless gloves, and I've actually made finger gloves. I just can't find my sample. I don't know where I did with it. I reorganized everything this summer and packed everything away for the winter, and now I can't find anything. I think that's normal. But what I wanted to share with you is that I keep all my gloves in this basket with my handkerchiefs because I use cloth handkerchiefs. I try really hard to not use disposable tissue to fill up the landfills, and I throw them in hot water and wash them and sanitize them and use them again. And so my gloves and my handkerchiefs stay in the same basket because that's usually the season that I'm using both of them in. This glove measuring video, though, is to give you a little bit of a beginning start to glove making. I scoured the YouTube this morning trying to find glove making videos, and I was woefully disappointed. There are a few videos on making leather gloves, which is an amazing skill. I don't have any leather to make leather gloves with, so I make them out of fabric. And there were some DIY stretchy glove ones and some cosplay type gloves, but nothing that seemed to be more historically oriented or daily wear oriented. And I do wear my gloves all the time. You're going to see a variety of gloves that I own that I have acquired from secondhand stores. I don't have any that I've bought like on Amazon or anything like that. These green ones that you're going to see in the video, they're my extra pair of rapier fighting gloves, and they're leather, and they are specifically for rapier fighting. I have these old black gloves that don't have their cuffs anymore. These are my partner's old fighting gloves, and the whole reason I'm keeping them is that they give me a good sizing guide. He wore them to the point where they've got holes in them and he can't use them anymore. So eventually I'm going to cut these up and make him a pair of probably fancy court gloves. I also have a pair of white ones that he had for a while. So if you have a pair of gloves that you really like, for example, these gloves are my favorite winter gloves. They are fleece lined. And not synthetic fleece. This is real fleece. And I have literally worn the tips out of these gloves. And I'm keeping them because they are literally the perfect size glove for me for the wintertime, except that I need these 3 fingers to be longer because I have longer nails. So I'm keeping them to take them apart to make a pair of winter gloves. And winter gloves, I have found, need to be a little bit larger than my typical size cotton glove that I wear in the spring and the summer when I drive. Most of the time I wear my cotton gloves for driving. I have some nylon and I have some poly type blend. They're all secondhand gloves, so they're a little bit older, but I wear them mostly for driving. Sometimes I wear them out to an event if I think I'm going to have to shake somebody's hand, because I do not like shaking people's hands at all. It's not my thing. So anyway, this is the introduction to the glove measuring video.
A couple years ago, I was working in an office. It was really cold, and so I made many pairs of fingerless gloves. I am showing you some of the first ones that I made that I wore for a while. Now, as I put this glove on, what I'm showing you basically is if you put it on the wrong way, it's really hard to get on. And the seam is on the top, which means it's not the right way. You actually have to put it on where the seam is on the side, and then it'll go on a lot faster. See how easy that went on? These are all hand stitched down. I did all of the bottom and the top on the sewing machine and then hand turned them and did the final stitching by hand. I have a black pair of linen ones here. I was showing you that I wore them so much there's a hole in the thumb area. These are all cotton quilting fabrics, so they're 100% cotton broadclothy type fabric. I hand stitched all of the thumb pieces in to reinforce them. Here's a gray pair. I really like them. There's also a green linen pair. And then I really like owl fabric, so here's another cotton owl fabric. And what I'm showing and pointing out are the seams in these. And these are a fleece owl fabric. And they actually, this particular pair, I put a seam down the back side of the hand to tighten it up right over the wrist and yet loose at the hand portion. It just makes it more comfortable. These are a pair of fingerless knit gloves, and the reason I'm showing you is that they're very loose around the hand, which means they're too big for me. So we're going to start with a pair of cotton gloves, and something that I'm showing you with these is that there is a piece of fabric that goes between each one of the fingers. And if you look at these particular gloves, they're hand stitched along the top but machined on the inside. And these gloves have decoratives on the back side of the wrist. They're actually a nylon type fabric. I'm also showing you the differences between the thumb piece. This particular pair of gloves, there's a separation. And on all of the gloves, the seam between the fingers is one long piece of fabric on these, which makes them definitely a later type style glove pattern. These have some really nice decoration on the outside of the wrist. So they're also a bit bigger. They have a bigger thumb angle piece, but the pieces between the fingers do go all the way around. The next pair are a little bit more of a cotton fabric, but they have a wrist gusset for movement, for a little bit more ease in the wrist. They do have some top stitching and some decoration. They have a wider thumb gusset, and these have a separate piece that go between the fingers, which make them an earlier style glove pattern. These next pair, they have more of a nylon stretchy elastic in the wrist. They also have one big thumb opening instead of a gusseted, and then the separation between fingers is one long piece of fabric again, which make them a newer style. Now these are completely nylon. They are not my favorites. They're a little bit longer. They have a tag still in them. They're kind of a nylon polyester. They have a big, huge thumb and a continual piece that goes between all of the fingers. Again, that makes it much more late, and they're too big for me. Here I wanted to show you what a glove stretcher looks like. I use a metal one for my leather gloves, and I'm going to go get a pair to show you here. These are top stitched leather gloves, and they're a kid skin glove. They fit me exactly perfect in both the finger length as well as the palm length, and I don't really need to use the stretcher unless I have washed them recently, which then they shrink a little bit. These are perfect, and as you can see, I'm pulling them off one finger at a time, or a group of fingers at a time, just so that we don't stretch the glove out of shape. And these are a size 7.5, and that's really important. Okay, so here we're going to measure the hand. You need to take the tape measure and wrap it around the fattest portion of your hand, just like I'm doing here. Now, if you do that correctly, mine is 7.5 inches, which matches the size of the glove I just put on. The pattern size will be 8 inches across compared to the 7.5 of your hand size, and that has to do with the seam allowance needed to make the glove fit. I caution you not to be fooled by trying to measure the glove. The glove is often made on the stretch, so it will not be the correct size if you just measured the glove. You really have to put the glove on and measure around, and that is going to be your 7.5 inch mark. Now, to measure the glove cuff, I like to put on a pair of gloves that already have a cuff on them, and I'm using these rapier gloves as an example. And if you see, I can see where the edge of my wrist is, and I'm measuring from that to the end of the cuff to give myself a measurement of how long the glove gauntlet cuff needs to be. It is important to measure the wrist to figure out how wide it needs to be to get the glove on and off with ease. The final measurement that you need is for each individual finger, including the thumb. Now, if you have long nails like me, it's really important that you measure your index finger, your middle finger, and your ring finger, and your pinky, and make sure you measure both sides of your ring finger, because that will determine how long the gusset needs to be between each finger.